I think it's disappointing that this has become politicized. I think we should try to get to the bottom of where the COVID virus came from. There's a lot of evidence now that it came from the lab in China. This is important because we don't want this to happen again. Unfortunately, Dr. Fauci has resisted this investigation and has denied that they funded research in China that might have caused this disease. But the evidence is mounting that there's been a cover-up. The evidence is mounting that this disease did originate in a laboratory. Two big pieces of information. Number one, the wet markets where they sell these exotic animals in Wuhan and in parts of China, they tested 80,000 animals, and they didn't find any animals that were positive for COVID. So they didn't find an animal host for this. It looks like it just showed up one day in humans. That argues for this coming from a lab and not evolving and coming from animals. The other large piece of evidence is they looked at thousands of blood samples from people in China in 2019 to see if any of them had antibodies to COVID already. If this came naturally, usually it comes slowly before it comes quickly, and you'll find in the very early stages some sporadic cases of people who had COVID in 2019. Well, they looked through, I believe, 9,000 samples, and they found nobody with COVID. This argues very strongly for this disease having come from the lab as well. When we've questioned Dr. Fauci on this, though, he says, oh, we weren't doing that kind of research there, and we didn't fund it. Well, it turns out that the NIH, which Dr. Fauci is a big part of, did fund research in Wuhan and continues to send money over there. Your money is going to Wuhan to fund research. In this research, they take an unknown virus from a bat cave and they combine it with another virus that can cause pandemics, and then they try to find out whether or not the new virus they create in the lab could cause illness. Well, lo and behold, they have found that it does cause illness, and Dr. Fauci still won't admit that this kind of research was gain of function, meaning the virus gained the function or gained lethality. The virus gained in dangerousness when they combine these viruses. Well, this is a crazy kind of research. We shouldn't be doing it in China. We certainly shouldn't be funding it with taxpayer money, but we also should not be doing it in America. There are two labs in America, one in Galveston and one in North Carolina, that are still doing this research, and I'm sure they're still doing this research in Wuhan. Your taxpayer dollars are still going to China. When Dr. Fauci's asked about it, he says, oh yeah, he's still in favor of sending your money to China to do this research. I think that's a terrible idea, and it may well have been the cause. We don't have proof that it was the cause, but we do think that this kind of experiments could have created the virus that is the pandemic. When Dr. Fauci was asked about this in 2012, he said, well, you know, I'm for gain-of-function research, and sure, a scientist could get infected and we could get a pandemic, but it would be worth it. He said that it would be worth it even if we had a pandemic because the knowledge would be worth it. I think the 5 million people have died so far, and their families probably would beg to differ with Dr. Fauci and say, you know what, maybe the knowledge you think you would have gained maybe wasn't worth the loss of my loved one. We have to investigate this. There hasn't been any investigation. I've asked the heads of the committees, who are Democrats, to investigate where this virus came from. We have not had one hearing, 0 hearings on investigating where this virus came from. I'm going to keep pushing for this. We need to, because you know what? This virus had a 1% mortality, and that meant right now over 750,000 Americans have lost their lives from this. Can you imagine if this had 15% mortality or 50% mortality? Some of the viruses that they're experimenting with in these gain-of-function research that Dr. Fauci supports have 15% mortality. Some of the viruses have 50% mortality. This is alarming, it's crazy, and it should come to a stop. Everybody on the phone call should know I stand up every day and ask the questions, how did this virus start? How did this pandemic start? And what do we do to stop it?